Hey guys, it's Scott with Scotty B Cards. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the top 15 rookies of 2021 Top Series 2. I did this exact same type of video with 2021 Top Series 1 and people have enjoyed it. So I thought for Series 2 it'd be good to do the same thing since there is a lot of rookies in this set. There are 60 different rookies. So just know we may vary on opinions, but these are the top 15 in my eyes. One thing that is kind of a bummer about 2021 Top Series 2 is there are quite a few big names that were left out of this series for whatever reason. Topps wanted to save them for update or whatever. Yerman Mercedes, Adolis Garcia, Akil Badu, Jonathan India, all of these guys are playing really, really well, but they're not in this series. So these are the top players actually in the product. And I use this system you'll see on my screen. I have 4 categories. I will show Pavon Smith, the first player on the list now, but I have prospect rankings, minor league stats, their age, and their major league stats. So for prospect rankings, this means if they're a top 10 prospect, they get 10 points. If they are a top 20 prospect, they're going to get 8 points, things like that. So he wasn't ranked, so I gave him 1, just so that way he wasn't at too much of an advantage, because he is still a top prospect. A lot of these players will be the same situation. Think of Hasan Kim, he came from Korean leagues. But regardless, that's the first one, the minor league stats. I look at their actual stats and I rank how they were, and we'll talk about those. Age is if they're 20 years old, they get 10 points. 21, 9 points. 25, like Pavon Smith, that's 5 points. And so forth. Major league stats is literally looking at their stats and seeing how good they are compared to other major league players. We get a total and then divide that for the average rating score, so we can see exactly like where he's at on the list with everybody else. So the very first one, like I said, is Pavon Smith. He's a pretty good player. Honestly, he has done well with the Diamondbacks so far. He is 25 years old. He debuted last year. He's basically an everyday player. His OPS is 794, which is very much above league average. Usually anything below an 800 isn't very good looking, but this year offense is basically declining like crazy, and so a 794 OPS is very respectable. So Pavon Smith, great offensive player, 25 years old. If we look at his minor league stats, he was a good minor leaguer. Oh, one thing I want to say, sorry, I tried to download a pop-up ad blocker, but it wouldn't work for me, so get it for next video. But if we actually look at his stats right here, here's his minors. He had a 281, so that's pretty good, and a 791 OPS. And for the minors, that's not bad. I would say maybe the 5 I gave him could have been a 6, but regardless, it's not bad, but it's not great compared to some other players we'll talk about on this list. But overall, he's a pretty solid player. I like Pavon Smith. He plays for the Diamondbacks, which kind of hurts his market, but overall, not a bad choice at number 15. At number 14, we have William Contreras, the brother of Wilson Contreras. William, I gave him, he's a 1 because he isn't in the top anything prospects for any of the major publications. His minor league stats weren't that great. They're a little bit below average in my opinion. He is only 23 years old, which helps, and he has been about league average in the big leagues, so for the same score of 4.25 as Pavon Smith. If we look at William Contreras, he has, he's a solid WAR player. He's at a good position at catcher, so to have a 772 OPS at catcher is pretty impressive. His OPS plus down here, it says it's right below league average, but overall it's not bad. He has some decent power numbers, and he's not a great defensive catcher. I watched him yesterday because the Dodgers played the Braves, and I was watching Mookie Betts, and he had they don't call him pass balls, wild pitches, but because of him they probably were pass balls, even though it wasn't recorded that way. He's not the best defender yet. He has a good arm, but he's just not quite super strong. If we look at his stats in the minor leagues, we can obviously say like his first year, he was a pretty good player, and you can always look at the most recent minor league season and see how that was, which is right here for 2019, and he was not that good. He wasn't bad. It's like a 700 OPS type player. The minors, he's a career 747 OPS player. Doesn't have a ton of power, 22 homers in the minors in 5 seasons. So while he's showing more power in the big leagues, which is what you want to develop as a player ages, he still wasn't that great. So I think right now here's a pretty respectable place for William Contreras. At number 13, we have Jake Cronenworth. Jake Cronenworth would be higher, but it's because of this age number. If he was 22, for example, he'd be way higher on this list because he has great big league stats. He would have been younger. His minor league stats are okay, not bad, about average, but he was never ranked. So these players are penalized slightly because they were not ranked by these prospecting companies, essentially, which sounds unfair, but the realistic truth is that usually they're really good at predicting who's going to be good. And so I do take that into consideration when I look at them. Sorry about that. So let's pull him up right here. Jake Cronenworth. He is killing it this year. 2.3 WAR. That's on pace for a 6 WAR season. He's above Mookie Betts, below. Actually, right now he's above Mike Trout, but Mike Trout hasn't played. He's only played like 30 something games. But overall, he's having a good year. He's a good defensive player and offensive player. If we scroll down for his D WAR, he almost has a full defensive WAR. A 1 win, which is really impressive this early in the year. But overall, he's still a good offensive player. 118 OPS plus. His OPS is 761. This takes into consideration ballpark factor. So because he plays in San Diego at Petco, it's a lot harder to have a higher OPS. Overall, though, not bad offensive numbers. Probably on pace for about 15 to 20 homers this year. Decent average. Just a pretty all-around decent player. But again, he is 27 right now. If we look at his minor league stats, he was in the minors for quite a while, 5 full seasons, and he had a 375, 394, 769 slash line, which isn't anything crazy, and that's kind of why he was in the minors. If we look at his most recent season, he was really good in the minor leagues, which is awesome, and that's why he was there. But before that, he had ups and downs, peaks and valleys. So overall, I think Jake Cronenworth, the thing that hurts him is his age. He's about the same as all three of these players. I kind of view all three of these as they're 4.25 overall. I think they're all basically equal. I would probably like to go with someone with a little bit more upside like William Contreras than Jake Cronenworth, just because William Contreras has a longer time to figure life out in the big leagues. But overall, that's where I have Jake Cronenworth. Next up, we have Shane McCallahan. Shane McCallahan is a pitcher. And the team he pitches for, I think it's the Rays. But if you pull Shane McCallahan up, you can see in the big leagues his numbers aren't that great yet. He's a positive WAR, but his WHIP is really high. WHIP, if you want to be around a 1, and that just means that overall you're not having 100 people on base and such. But he has a 4.11 ERA, which isn't the best. His ERA plus is 92, which isn't the best. But because he's pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays, he has overall decent numbers in the big leagues. I gave him, I think, a 5 or a 6 because he's average. An average pitcher right now. But he is a top, if you look at his actual prospect rankings, he is in like the 70s. And so he has 3 points there, which helps his numbers. And on top of that, let's dive down to his minor league stats. He was good in the minors. He has a career 3.17 ERA in the minors. His WHIP is about a 1.175, still a little bit higher than you want. Strikes out quite a bit, but he also walks quite a bit, which isn't going to be great for the big leagues, but overall, it's like he's figured that out. If you're a pitcher in the Rays system, usually that benefits you because the Rays somehow unlock something in everybody. All right, next up, we have Hasan Kim. He is a good player. He is another player very similar to Jake Cronenworth, if I'm being honest. He's actually younger than Jake Cronenworth, which I think benefits him. Offensively, he has not been anything special in the big leagues. He actually has been bad, 68 OPS plus. But if we go look at his defensive statistics, he is offensive WAR. He's positive. He's not negative right there. But he has a full win defensively. He probably will win a Gold Glove this year. If not, he'll be very close to winning a Gold Glove. He'll be a finalist for sure. And he'll figure out his bat. If we go look at the Korean League stats for Hasan Kim, he was good. If we actually look at his last 2 seasons, he had an 8. Sorry, guys. That's the ads I'm talking about, making it move around. He has an 880 OPS and a 921 OPS for the last 2 years he was in the big leagues. Both of those numbers are very respectable. Had 30 home runs last year. It's not translating yet, but he's getting accustomed to much better pitching in the major leagues. So we'll see what happens with him. I like Hasan Kim. He's a good guy. Plus, he has great international appeal. Korean people might collect him, even after he retires. Kind of like if you look at Masahiro Tanaka or some other players, Ichiro. Obviously, Ichiro is better than Kim and Tanaka, but overall, they have a really good collecting base over in the Asian countries. And that is number 11. So now we're in the top 10. At number 10, we have Garrett Crochet. He's just a pitcher. He's good, Garrett Crochet. He's having a good year, 0.7 WAR. His WHIP is really high. His ERA is really low. So it just means when he gets into trouble, he can pitch out of it, essentially. I just think he's a good player. I think the crazy thing about him is he didn't really have great minor league stats because he never was in the minor leagues. At least according to this, he basically pitched at Tennessee, and then the next year he was drafted, he was pitching for the White Sox in the big leagues. Pretty crazy. His numbers in the in college weren't the best. Great strikeout to walks ratio, struck out a lot. He didn't pitch a ton, only 18 games. But overall, he's just a good player now. If we go check out his big league stats, he has been just relieving for the White Sox, but he's been good. So he could be a good player to look at long term. Maybe they'll move him into a starter's role if he can continue that. But overall, he could be a very dominant reliever. He's only 22 years old, which is great. His minor league stats, I gave him a 2 because his college stats weren't even that good, really. He is a relatively high prospect in the 50s, and so overall, he has a 5 score, slightly above everybody else so far. At number 9, we have Jazz Chisholm. I would think Jazz would be higher. Just know all these players numbered 5, like that are tied, I view them as equals, and so Jazz could have been a little bit higher, a little bit lower. It's just all how you interpret it. The reason why is because Jazz has never been in prospect rankings. Again, if we were to give him, like, if he was a top 50 prospect, for example, he'd be a 6 and probably in the top 5. But because he wasn't, that hurts his numbers a little bit. He is only 23. He's got great major league stats. He's Mr. Strikeout, for being honest, but his minor league stats are about average. Let's go pull up Jazz right now. So this is his baseball reference page. You can tell right now he is about 120 OPS plus, meaning he's 20% better than league average. He is quick, a lot of stolen bases. He strikes out a lot and does not walk very much, which hurts his on-base percentage, which drops his OPS. If this was a little bit higher, his OPS and OPS plus would be significantly higher. But overall, great player. He's kind of a fun player too, which I think helps his value. After Jazz, at number 8, we have Luis Garcia. He's pitching right now amazingly for the Astros. He looks really good. I've watched him a few times against the Angels and even the Dodgers. He picked both of them apart. I think he fell apart in the later innings, but overall for a rookie, he's not doing a bad job. I gave him 6 points because he's 24. I think he has some high-end prospect rankings. No, he doesn't. So Luis Garcia is doing, he has great major league stats. He had pretty good minor league stats, but his age is what's helping him float higher. We can go look at his minor league stats real quick. And overall, you can just see, but that one whip is really good, by the way, for his big league career. He was a 2.50 ERA pitcher, so I really could have put him much higher, honestly. If I would have put him higher, he could have been in the top 5, but overall, I think where he's sitting is pretty good. At number 7, we have Luis Campusano, who, look at this, prospect rankings. He's a top 30 prospect. Minor league stats were fantastic. He's only 22 years old, but that is not translated in the big leagues at all. And the Padres are a good enough team where they can't really have a player struggle consistently. He hasn't really been given a ton of time in the big leagues. He's only played, how many games is it? 11 games this year, 38 plate appearances. But in those 38 plate appearances, he's been abysmal. He's walked a few times to just help his on base, but he's not slugged at all. He has 1 RBI, 3 hits. So he's just not been good yet, but he has potential to be great because he's so young. He's a catcher, which doesn't really help value, but overall, he's going to be a very valuable asset to a team if he can figure out offensively how to be a good catcher. His defensive WAR is solid. So far from what I've seen defensively, he looks fine. If we go look at his minor league stats again, he is good. He was really good in the minors. For the 4 seasons, he had an 800 OPS and basically a 297 batting average while slugging 23 homers at catcher, which is great. If we go look at his last, let's go look at this. He's actually in AAA right now, and he's still kind of struggling. But if we look at his last season, the full season 2019, he had a 906 OPS and a 325 batting average. So he maybe is a buy low, sell high type player where you can get him for pretty cheap right now when this product comes out. At number 6, another pitcher, Trevor Rogers. Trevor Rogers was the rookie of the month for last month for May for good reason. He has been great. 2.2 WARs, one of the top pitching WARs in baseball. Jacob deGrom is about a 2.8. So he's been consistently good so far. He has been starting, obviously, and overall, he's been striking out quite a few people. He's been walking not very many people. His strikeout to walk ratio is pretty awesome. He's at about 11 per 9 strikeouts, which is really good. Overall, he's just a very solid player. His minor league stats were respectable as well. If we go pull those up, right here, he had a 3.92 ERA, but he wasn't in the minors super long. His first year was rough, a 5.82 ERA in single A. But when he got to high A and double A, he was much, much better. Struck out a ton and did not walk very many. His strikeout 9 is about 10, which translates pretty well to the big leagues. So I really like Trevor Rogers, probably my favorite pitcher on the list, if I'm being honest. At number 5, we have a fun player, Alejandro Kirk. Let's go pull his baseball reference page up. He is 5'8", 265-pound catcher. And wherever he has gone, he has hit. He has been good everywhere. He's only 23 years old, and when he plays, again, in the big leagues, right now he's an 801 OPS. His slugging is what's carrying him right now, but he has only played 17 games and, 46 plate appearances. But if you go look at his minor league stats, like I said, he has hit at every level, essentially. All he does is hit, and he's not been a super bad defensive catcher from what I've seen. So let's go look at his minor stats. He was a 315 hitter and a 918 OPS, which has really raised his stats. Minor leagues was a 8 out of 10. Big leagues was a 7, and he's 22. All those numbers help him get to that big number of 6. Not a top prospect. No one has him ranked high, probably because he doesn't look good. He doesn't have that, like, doesn't pass the look test being 5'8", 270 or whatever he was. At number 4, we're in the top 4 now. Another great pitcher, actually. Ryan Weathers has been awesome for the Padres. He is a prospect. He's in the 80s or 90s for prospect rankings. And in the big minor leagues, he was okay. And he's only 21 years old. In the big leagues, he has been fantastic. If we look at his numbers as well, his whip is below 1. His ERA is a 2. So he's probably, overall the second best pitcher on this list behind Trevor Rogers. But he could be up there with him as well. But he's just been good. If you go look at his minor league stats, he was a pretty good pitcher in the minor leagues as well. 3.78, so a little bit higher. But again, it kind of gets hurt with their first or second years in the minor leagues. But they pulled him up out of single A, and he's been that good. So overall, I really like Ryan Weathers at number 4. Top 3 here, Sam Huff, a catcher for the Rangers. Sam Huff is a top prospect in the 60s. His minor league stats are really good. He's about a 7 out of 10. His age, he's 22 years old, and his major league stats have been good as well. So Sam Huff is somebody I've had people mention in the past on the channel that they really believe in. He's only played 10 games, but in those 10 games, he's killing it. A 200 OPS plus. He's been able to slug. He's 400 on base is elite, but granted, it's only been 10 games. So you could have a mini slump, and those numbers could all come crashing down, or he could be hot, and those numbers could stay high. Either way, Sam Huff is a player I really like, and maybe he'll get some more playing time with the Rangers. He's 6'5", 240, big catcher. We'll see how he translates over the long haul, but overall, he is a clear top 5 player for 2021 Top Series 2. At number 2, we have Alex Kirilloff. He is awesome. He is a top 20 prospect or top 15 prospect. He has great minor league stats, probably the best out of anybody on this list, but not named Alejandro Kirk, or maybe even better, right around the same as Alejandro Kirk. He's only 24 years old, and his big league stats, he's not been bad. He's been slightly above average. He has 0.3 WAR. Offensively, he's not been the best yet, but he's still getting up there, getting his feet in the water. So I like Alex Kirilloff. He's been one of the top prospects, one of the top chased Bowman Chrome cards in the past. But I think he will do good in the big leagues once he figures it all out. Let me pull up his minor league baseball reference page. So right here we can see in the minors, he has an 869 OPS, a 318 batting average. He has 38 homers in 4 seasons. So he looks like a big league player to me, and I think he will translate soon. And at number 1, probably no surprise, is Ke'Bryan Hayes. He is good. Before this season, he was not a top 10 prospect. This year, he is a top 10 prospect, so he gets a 10 there. His minor league stats were okay. That's why he wasn't a top 10 prospect before this season, and then he came up last year, played really, really great at the end of 2020. He's 24 years old, and his major league stats are by far the best on the list. Let's go pull Ke'Bryan Hayes up. Right now, he has a 305 OPS plus. He's only played a few games. He's just barely back from injury. But last year, he still was great with a 200 OPS plus. His batting average is not going to stay that high. It has really high BABIP, meaning the balls in play are dropping a lot more than average than other players. But he's good. I think Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to be a great big league player. I don't know if he's going to be a perennial all-star or anything, but he has that upside. I don't know if he's going to reach it, but he could get there. So anyways, guys, those are my top 15 rookies to look for in 2021 Top Series 2. Let me know who you believe in, who you don't believe in, and good luck ripping and finding some product in the stores. I'll catch you in the next episode.